Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ Dhammaṃ Sanghaṃ Namasami. I recently had 2 weeks of solitude, opportunity to spend more time up at my kuti, meditating, reading, reflecting, extremely enjoyable. And of course, having more time for meditation, formal practice, just to encourage us all to just keeping at the meditation. Obviously the Buddha's path is one of an integration of all the different path factors, Eightfold Path, 7 factors of enlightenment, and just learning how to have a balance of our life in terms of being in contact with the world around us, having responsibilities, duties. But then also being able to hold it within a basis of mindfulness and reflection, having the clarity and stillness within that allows us to really see things in their true nature and not get swept away with the kind of either something interesting, exciting, or something irritating and stirs up aversion, but having this foundation of clarity. So there's being able to cool the mind, cool the heart, as a part of our meditation practice, and this is where having an object of meditation is helpful in that they, I would say like Ajahn Jeff's translation of Satipatthana, usually translated as, say, a foundation of mindfulness, translating it as a frame of reference is really, I think, really helpful, because we're taking a particular object and using that for our frame of reference. So you're framing our experience from a particular perspective. So it's like there's a say on the shrine room, or on the shrine here behind me. There's a picture of Ajahn Chah, and it's got a frame about this big. So that's if you got a certain frame, and you've got an image there, the image of Ajahn Chah, and so then it's framed in that way, and you can makes it stand out more clearly. You've got the frame of the alcove here. It's a much bigger frame. And then you say, oh, well, there's this, and then there's that, and oh, isn't that interesting? Oh, why did they do it like that? And it should really be this color. So a bigger frame, there's more detail, and it's easy to get lost in. So picking a frame that is helpful. And of course, the Buddha's for frames of reference and body, feeling, mind, objects of mind, and then they get broken down into smaller frames as well with that. So I just taking actually a couple tea times ago, the last couple of days, there's been questions around the meditation on the 32 parts of the body, and it's a frame that one takes of experience. The hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, skin. It's a frame, 32 different ways of experiencing, looking at, or the frame of the breath, and just taking the breath and using that as the frame of reference for one's, especially in a discrete period of time, sitting down, meditate. Of course, you can carry that with you in different ways. Like if you're sitting in a period of meditation, picking up the sensation of the body, the sensation of the breath, trying to refine the experience of that, and then when you've got that frame, then you can also pay attention to what comes in and out of that frame. And so you've got the breath, and you can either just choose to try to hold attention at that point, and then notice what comes in and out of that frame. Or one can take that particular frame and then modulate one's experience in a way that is useful or helpful for supporting the mindfulness and awareness. So that a lot of it is making it very conscious and realizing that we have this opportunity of having this frame of reference and being able to recognize, of course, what bottom line is, what is it that helps to increase well-being and clarity, peacefulness, and what is it that disturbs that? What is it that creates more agitation, more suffering? So being able to understand that, and that's part of the investigation and attention that we want to be sustaining, so that we actually do understand within that frame of our experience, what are we doing with it? What are we adding to it? What are we subtracting? What are we creating problems with? So that's just learning how to pick up an object of meditation and lifting awareness up to that object. So you've made a conscious choice to attend to an object, and of course, and the breath is just one example. Could be walking meditation, the sensation of walking. Could be, as I said, 32 parts of the body, but any number of things. But picking awareness up, picking attention up, and holding it there, and looking after it, attending to it. Then we can, as we do that, then we start to learn from our experience and learn how to be present with that object, because when we're being pulled away, from some distraction or other, then you reckon, oh well, that is a distraction, and I don't really. That isn't what I set out to do. I set out to be attentive and alert and peaceful, and okay, I'm somewhere else now. How to get here? And then just investigating, seeing, or I've ended up, okay, I started off only a few minutes ago to be alert and mindful. Why is my head down on my chest? And it wasn't there before. And so is there recognizing, paying attention? Oh, this is what's happening, and then where do we lose it? What happens? And then again is lifting up attention. So that lifting up of attention to that object, to that frame of our experience, and as we do that, then we gain some skill, and it's quite similar to any skill that we learn. It takes some time to learn that. So just the simple act that, like, all of us are adults now. We all know how to write. But when we were little, we didn't know how to write. We had to sort of learn how to do block letters, and we had to learn how to do cursive writing. And we had to get some skill in that, and had to pay attention to not letting it get too sloppy. But it's something that we developed over time. It's really ordinary. Meditation is not different. And it just depends on what we set our mind to do, or what our background experience is. We can, it's just another way of learning. It's like Friday they were the other day before they were pouring concrete, and all the rest of us were sort of walking past, and the workers are working, and finishing this concrete, and Ajahn Sek just wanders over, picks up a trowel and just starts troweling away and doing finishing work on the concrete. And sort of like, but most of the rest of us wouldn't know what to do with it, with the trowel, with the tool, and so it's something that's learned. I'm sure something he learned somewhere along the way, and there has some skill in it. So that we pick up these different skills, and meditation and looking after our mind is one of the skills that we can pick up, but we have to be willing to train with it. And of course, the mind is a bit more intractable, and there's a bit more of an investment to learn how to develop and refinement of mindfulness and stillness, but again, it's just it is a skill, and that we can be learning, and this. And just being able to stick with it, and to be consistent with it, to be patient with it. It's like an image that Ajahn Chah always used was the image of meditation, of learning how to use two sticks to rub together to make fire, and I think of it because the monks are. There's a group from here that's out in Yosemite, and that was one of the things they did last year, was they got these fire making tools, and rather than having matches and whatnot, they're actually making fire with wood and a bow and through friction. And you see, I remember Ajahn Chah talking about that. Yeah, you get these sticks and you rub them together, and as you get, your arms get tired, and so you say, well, I'll just have a bit of a break. And you say, the old people say you can make fire from these. They start get tired. I don't think you can do that. So you have a bit of a break. Okay, well, we'll give it another try and do it for a bit more. You get tired. That must be an old fable. This can't be true. No fire in here. So you give up. But it's just sort of doing it and being consistent with it and sticking with it, and you can create fire just by rubbing it together. In the same way, they say, it's those Buddhists, they say that you can make your mind peaceful just watching the breath go in and out. I mean, all I see is this breath going in. I'm breathing anyway. Why do I have to pay attention? And so find the logic to give up and I'll just go check my email or something. Go look at YouTube. There must be some video of somebody peaceful there somewhere. So that, they and we don't realize. Okay, we can do it ourselves, and it's a skill that we can learn. Being ready to do it, and there's a certain there's a need to be consistent with it, steady with it, put forth effort to it, and also be patient with it. Some things require patience, and being ready to be, but it isn't, when we say that, okay, you just have to put forth effort, be patient, you also have to be, how are you putting forth effort and how are you being patient? Because there's some things you don't want to actually be very patient with. Like you've cut yourself and you're sort of gushing blood, and you say, well, I'll just be patient with it and see what happens. You start bleeding all over the place. I mean, that's not the time to that's the time to really do something quickly that you need to do. You've got to, you stepped on a thorn or something, and sort of poking up into your foot, and so you got to do something right now and get that thorn out. The same, with meditation. There are you're tolerating some things, being patient with some things, but then you want to be, say, alert to, say, like certain moods of mind that are really corrosive, and just jealousy, anger, is just it's just eating you up, and so you don't want to be patient with that. You want to be willing to, okay, how do I let this go? How do I relinquish this? I can't really feed that. That's not really worth feeding and supporting. That recognizing that when, say, in any of the Buddha's teachings, you have to hold them in the right way, so that there's it isn't sort of like an absolute, sort of like, oh yes, you need to be patient, and it's sort of, I got to be absolutely patient with absolutely everything, and that's not how it works. You sort of say, what's the result of that patience? Or you have to put forth effort, and it's true, you have to put forth effort, but it isn't as if you just have to force yourself, push yourself all the time. You have to see what is the result of that. Where is the balance that's going to facilitate the establishing of a continuity of awareness, sense of well-being, stillness and clarity, and that's what is it. And that needs reflection. You need to be reflecting, investigating, and to a certain degree experimenting. What works, what doesn't work. As we continue to practice, and the Buddha points to certain qualities that are helpful to be integrated with the different practices that we do, and the Buddha uses the 4 bases of spiritual success, 7 factors of awakening, the Eightfold Path, but then he said that to be cultivated, each of those qualities to be cultivated with a sense of, say, seclusion, dispassion, cessation, maturing in release. In the Pali, viveka, viraga, nirodha, vosaka. Those are important qualities to be reflecting on in terms of as we practice, in terms of establishing a meditation object, establishing a continuity in the meditation itself. How to instill this sense of seclusion. Viveka is sort of seclusion, solitude, but it's and again, it's not sort of like an absolute in the sense of, okay, I've got to be, I can't deal with anybody, anything. I need to be in seclusion and in solitude all the time. That's not really how it works. It's sort of, what is it that helps to foster a sense of just stepping back a bit so that we're not entangled and caught up. And part of it is a physical seclusion, so that, say for myself, I'm having previous 2 weeks up at my kuti. It's wonderful, it's really supportive. But I also have duties and responsibilities and whatnot, so it's a good break. But it helps to establish or bring up a recollection, a remembrance of, okay, what's really important, what's not important, what's helpful and what's not helpful. But one can't really rely on that external circumstances. There's also a seclusion of the mind, seclusion of the heart, and not going out to the moods of the mind or the impressions of the mind and the views and opinions of the mind, because those keep the mind busy and entangled and complicated. So that's the citta viveka. It's a seclusion of the heart. And that's again, it's how we start framing experience. And recognize, we can be directing attention in different ways. And there's ways that we can direct our attention that stir the mind up, and there's ways that we direct attention that allow it to become cool and settled. And even if there is duties, engagements, social interactions, it doesn't have to disturb the mind, because there is a seclusion, internal seclusion, that's based on how we direct our attention. And the same way for the other aspect of viveka, upadhi viveka, is more around the sense of self and identification. And having that seclusion where we're not creating a sense of me, a sense of mine, picking up the basis of being and identity. Of course, is just body, feeling, perception, mental formations, consciousness, so that we can keep making that assumption. This is who I am. This is who I should be. This is who I shouldn't be. This is who I want to be. This is shouldn't, and all of that the machinations of the sense of becoming and the sense of self-identity, and of course the coolness of heart that comes from that quality of seclusion is really worth paying attention to. And and one of the qualities, I think, in terms of as we develop mindfulness, as we develop meditation, as we develop the Buddhist path, I think one of the qualities that is really helpful to reflect on in order to integrate into all of these different aspects of training ourselves is contentment. It's learning how to be, say, how can I be content with with one in-breath and one out-breath? How can I be content with this moment? How can I be content with this situation? How can I not get swept up by either my excitement or my aversion? How can I not get caught up with my fears and my worries, anxiety? It's not that it's not there, but it's sort of seeing, oh no, I can be content with this, and as one holds contentment as a value, and not creating, pushing and pulling and trying to get away from or trying to get something else in order to be satisfied. It's sort of, oh, how can I be content with this? Then there's a lot of stuff drops away, and then that feeling of seclusion really starts to establish itself. The sense of kind of a real deep peace and well-being, of just being content with either a task that one's doing, a particular chore that one's engaged in, or the simplicity of sitting up in meditation and being attentive to the breath coming in and the breath going out. And say, so this quality of contentment is a way of, I guess it's another way of, in terms of framing, and then recognizing, well, one is what can I release and relinquish that will allow a sense of contentment? What is it that's the obstacle to contentment? And of course that's because we set that sense of, we make a seclusion. And again, it's not sort of, an ideal or absolute seclusion, but sort of like, what do I need to be content with in order to allow that solitude or seclusion to take root? Similarly with dispassion. It isn't as if you have to sort of go around and view everything as kind of ugly and meaningless so you can be dispassionate. It's sort of, how can I just be content with something that is either, would normally tend to stir up the passion of either attraction or aversion. How can I be content with something that that it's not that it's not there, but I can hold it in clarity and dispassion, and it ceases to have the same pull on the heart. And that's where that cessation is not going around trying to annihilate and push away anything. It's just allowing it to cease to have a hold over the heart. And that maturing and release, in that sense of release, relinquishment, is one can let things be as they are, and which isn't a passivity or a carte blanche diktat for doing nothing, but it's more like you can, when you're willing to let things see things as they are, and can be content with it, then you can see, well, now what is appropriate? What would be useful? What would be beneficial? Because that's the Buddha's teaching is always for, and the Buddha emphasizes it over and over and over, that it's for the freeing oneself from one's own suffering and freeing others from their suffering, in the sense of not creating suffering for oneself, not creating suffering for others, or not, not being complacent, so that there's the suffering either for oneself or for others increases. So there's a mandate that the Buddha gives us to be clear enough to understand, well, what is actually happening in terms of the quality of one's own life and the quality of others, and how can we contribute so that for our own well-being and happiness and the well-being and happiness of others. And oftentimes that's not really recognized or paid much attention to, but it comes up over and over and over again in the suttas. So that just having the tools to be able to see our experience more clearly is a necessary foundation for being able to foster our practice and be, say, well established in this way of practice and training that the Buddha has given us. So these fundamental qualities of contentment, you start seeing how that really nourishes and nurtures that ability to step back from and allow the sense of seclusion to settle. Being willing to frame our experience so that we start to recognize the patterns of both the skillful and the unskillful. What are the patterns and it's having that skill in being attentive and consistently attentive to being alert and investigative of our experience. And just paying attention to something as simple as the in-breath and the out-breath starts to give you a handle on what we can do and what we need to do in order to allow the mind to become truly peaceful and truly clear. So I'll offer that for reflection this afternoon.
Sa